We begin in the US city of Baltimore, where 6 people still missing after a container ship brought down a key bridge are now presumed dead. The Coast Guard said it had suspended its search and rescue operation and now will focus on a recovery mission. These are live pictures from the scene where poor visibility and debris from the bridge in the water are making the recovery efforts extremely challenging. The ship is registered in Singapore, and the Port Authority there says it passed 2 inspections last year. The container vessel lost power after departing from Baltimore's port, causing it to crash into the bridge. Our correspondent Will Vernon has more.
The search for the missing. Emergency services worked all day to locate the 6 construction workers who had been on the bridge when it collapsed. But the rescue operation was unsuccessful.
Based on the length of time that we've gone in this search, the extensive search efforts that we've put into it, the water temperature, that at this point we do not believe that we're going to find any of these individuals still alive.
The search area was huge, and efforts were hampered by cold weather and wreckage in the water.
The search and rescue mission that was going on just behind me has been suspended. Next, the recovery operation will begin. Now, the focus will turn to the crucial work of the investigators to establish exactly how this tragic accident could have happened.
Investigators here say they now need to get aboard the stricken ship. They want to analyse the recording device, like a black box found on aircraft. Shortly before the collision, the ship had suffered a power issue.
Port all traffic on the Key Bridge. There's a ship approaching has just lost their steering.
In this recording, police can be heard desperately trying to clear the bridge.
213 dispatch, the whole bridge just fell down. Start, whoever, everybody. The whole bridge just collapsed.
The collapse of a local landmark has shaken this city.
It's a great shock. I mean, it didn't look real. We saw it on video. Some of us thought it was staged because it just, how could this happen? This is iconic to our community. So it's a real shock.
This is my song. Oh, I'm praising myself.
Shock and sadness in a Baltimore church last night. Families and friends gathered to pray for the lost.
Well, Dr. Marina Bock is a lecturer in structural engineering at Aston University here in the UK. I asked her if anything could have been done to prevent this tragedy from happening.
I mean, yeah, it's been very shocking what has happened. Normally, bridges are designed, in fact, to take into account accidental actions like cars and trucks hitting cables, and even they are designed to take into account vandalism. But what happened here is that we found a vessel, a main vessel, very large vessel hitting one of the main supports of the bridge, which triggered the progressive collapse. There is possibility to protect the piers of the bridge, but again, because of the scale of the boat, of the large vessel, it would have been very difficult to protect. Also, we need to bear in mind that this bridge was built in 1970s to a design standard that possibly was taking into account small boats even hitting the piers, it has been a very difficult accident to predict and imagine. And in the 1970s, in fact, to consider in the design stages a very large vessel of that scale hitting a main pier.
And Dr. Bock, the government at the moment is pledging to rebuild the bridge. What do you think they would have to take into account as they begin this process, and how long could it take?
To rebuild the bridge, well, I would expect that now the investigation that is ongoing will look at why the vessel hit one of the main piers. I would also expect the engineers to look at the degradation of the bridge. Normally, bridges like the bridge in Baltimore, they tend to suffer from corrosion due to exposure to air and water, and also fatigue due to the continuous loads of trucks and cars. So it's going to take a long time because it's a very, very heavy structure to remove and rebuild.
And Dr. Bock, I guess people watching around the world will be asking the question, what can other governments learn from this incident, this tragedy? And do we have similar bridges with similar designs in other parts of the world?
So, yeah, I mean, civil engineers and structural engineers do learn from failures and from catastrophes like the one that happened in Baltimore. As I said, one of the main things now that I expect to be reviewed is the design laws that are taken into account in existing bridges. Again, several bridges were built several years ago with lower design loads and also possibly not taking into account the increase of maritime advances and larger vessels in this instance. It's still early, though, to understand the reaction of professional bodies and the community.
That was Dr. Marina Bock from Aston University. So why did the ship go off course, and why did this huge bridge come crashing down so easily? The BBC's Rebecca Morell has been looking at the sequence of events.
Well, what do we know about what happened in Baltimore? Data analysed by BBC Verify shows the ship set off from the port at 1:45 in the morning local time. The Dali is a 300-metre long container ship, and on board were 2 pilots, mariners from the local port with a specialist knowledge about how to guide the vessel out to sea. Now, it was heading towards the central section of the bridge, which is wide enough and tall enough for the ship to pass through, but it veered off course and crashed into this column here. So what happened? Well, in this video, you can see the ship is nearing the bridge, but at 1:24 a.m, the lights go off suddenly, suggesting a major technical fault. A minute later, they come back on again. Now, 3 minutes after this, you start to see the black smoke billowing from the ship. And over here, where you can see this circle, are the construction vehicles. Workers there were fixing potholes on the road. And then moments later, a mayday was issued, and you could see the moments of impact, and the bridge collapsed.
If you lose power while manoeuvring, there's a possibility you could lose control of the steering of the vessel momentarily. There are regulations as to how quickly you have to be able to regain that control if that does happen. But obviously, in such a confined area, those seconds or minutes can make the difference between having a collision or not.
So why did such a large part of the bridge collapse? Well, the bridge opened in 1977, and at its centre is a continuous section spanning 366 metres long. There are 4 supporting columns underneath it. Now, bridges are tested for impacts, but we don't know if calculations would have included a vessel of this size. Ships are a lot bigger now than they were in the 70s. The head-on collision took out an entire load-bearing support. Now, protective reinforcements can be added to these, but it's not clear if they were here.
Rebecca Morell there.